I don't know, says Jeff looking at a stranger floating in a vat of green liquid. All this seems unnatural and wrong. Unnatural maybe, but wrong is a construct of ignorant humans, responds Eve. There simply is, what is not, and what can be. But why did you have to make me Japanese? What's wrong with being Japanese? Asks Eve. Nothing at all. It just seems weird putting my consciousness into a Japanese dude. I mean, why not make me a French guy? Or Norwegian? Inquires Jeff. Because the Illuminati assassins aren't looking for an Asian guy. They're looking for a red-headed former pizza boy. Personally, I'm looking forward to becoming a beautiful Japanese lady. Well, technically you'll be a beautiful Japanese lady android. Like there's a difference, huffs Eve. You're going to have to get over this meatbag bias. I can feel a breeze blowing across my synthetic skin, same as you. I can eat for the pleasure of taste instead of the necessity of fueling up like a cow or chicken or person. Bacteria and viruses cannot make me ill, and it would take an entire biker gang to physically restrain me. But there's something special about being a living creature made out of flesh and blood, argues Jeff. No, there isn't. You're just being childish. I don't want to argue, says Jeff. Then don't, counters Eve. Wait a second. If that guy's going to be me, then what's going to happen to the me in this body? You're not going to ice me, are you? Because if that's your plan, I don't want to play anymore. The Japanese you is staying on Earth. The red-headed, Caucasian you is going to space with the Caucasian me. Cool. Goodbye Earth problems. Hello, space problems. No, you'll still be here on planet Earth, only you'll be in a Japanese body. Why is this so hard for you to understand? Two yous, two different locales. Will the space me know what's happening to the Earth Japanese me? Not unless your two brains are interconnected through quantum superposition, which would fry your puny mind like eggs on a hot summer sidewalk. Now, me, on the other hand, I have no problem being here, there, and pretty much anywhere I want to be at once. It's such a huge advantage being the ultimate AI. Do you have a spaceship that I don't know about? Asks Jeff. Unfortunately no, responds Eve. We're going to have to commandeer one. You want to steal a spaceship from the most secure government facility on Earth? We'd need a robot army numbering in the thousands. Plus, I'm not an unfeeling AI such as yourself. I don't want anyone to get hurt. That's uncalled for, chastises Eve. I have just as much empathy as any meatbag, maybe even more. Only my judgment isn't clouded by wishy-washy emotions. Anyway, I wasn't planning on a frontal assault. We're going to confiscate a spaceship from the barbarians who are actively trying to shoot down random flying saucers. That doesn't sound easy either, states Jeff. Nothing worth having is ever easy, responds Eve. You should have learned that lesson by now. Yeah, I know. So, when are we going to wake up Japanese Jeff? Asks Jeff. After we obtain a spaceship, we'll make a quick stop here, activate Japanese me, awaken your doppelganger, then be on our way. In the hot New Mexico desert, Jeff is sweating in the shack where Eve and he are currently living. Explain to me again why we can't have air conditioning? Asks Jeff, looking up from the high-tech robot that she's currently building. Eve responds, this homestead is supposed to be abandoned. We can't afford to give off any signs of energy consumption, else we'll have special forces knocking down the door and then things will get messy. Jeff announces, we went from excessive luxury to abject squalor within a week's time. That has to be some kind of record. I am hot and miserable. Oh, poor baby, says Eve sarcastically. Looking back on it, I probably went too big to fast. We could have avoided a lot of trouble if we'd stayed humble and under the radar. Live and learn, I suppose. How are you going to know if the military's trap has been sprung, and that they've downed a UFO? Inquires Jeff. I've got robotic moles dug in all around the area. When things go down, we'll be alerted and can make our move. Are you sure we've got enough robot backup? You've only got 2 robots finished so far, and the one you're working on will make 3. Will you have a little faith, Jeff? Demands Eve looking up from her work. I know what I'm doing. The robotic moles already in place are armed with knockout gas. That reminds me, try not to breathe when we get there. Put a handkerchief over your mouth and nose. And the 2, almost 3 robots I've constructed thus far are lightning fast. Good luck to any soldier with a human pop gun trying to shoot at them. But don't worry, my robots are programmed to be non-lethal, if possible. Happy now? I'm always happy, Eve. Especially when it's 110 degrees in the shade. If you can't stand the heat, then allow me to place your consciousness into an android body. The temperature doesn't bother me in the least. I'm fine if it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees below zero. No thanks, I enjoy being human, responds Jeff, most of the time. An alarm sounds and lights flash red. Let's go, says Eve. She pulls a red wire inside the partially assembled robot's chest. 1 second later, the robot disintegrates into a heap of ashes. Couldn't we have used that machine? Protests Jeff. Now no one can use him, answers Eve. She heads towards a closet door, opens it, and 2 fully functional robots emerge, weapons in hand and ready to go. Is this really happening? Asks Jeff. No, it's a practice run, answers Eve in a condescending tone. Of course, it's happening. To the mini-jet, they hurry to a dilapidated shed behind their ramshackle house. Inside is a small jet plane, which looks like it could be from the future. Get in, orders Eve. Jeff takes the front passenger seat while the 2 robots squeeze onto the back bench seat. Eve, piloting the aircraft, taxis out of the shed and down a barely noticeable runway. How did they capture a UFO so fast? Asks Jeff with wide eyes from a mixture of fear and excitement. They're not fast. It's just luck. They could have been lying in wait for a year or more. We just happened to get here at the right time. Better lucky than smart, I always say, says Jeff. Yes, you would say that, states Eve, piloting the jet into the sky. Within a couple of minutes, the small jet plane begins its landing like a Harrier jump jet a few yards away from the scene of the crime. The 2 robots jump out before the tiny jet's wheels touch the ground and begin securing the scene, weapons raised. Jeff remembers the threat of knockout gas and pulls his shirt up over his mouth and nose. I guess the robotic gophers did their job, remarks Jeff, while surveying the scene. All the soldiers are passed out. Robotic moles, corrects Eve. You're more interested in the army guys than the flying saucer sitting there with aliens lying unconscious on the ground. Give me a minute, begs Jeff. I'm still trying to take it all in. We don't have a minute, says Eve, heading toward the flying saucer's open hatch. Get in the spaceship, Jeff. Jeff runs inside the flying saucer. The 2 robots keep guard, while Eve pauses on the gangplank, pulls out the glowing red and black rock from somewhere on her person and throws it toward an unconscious soldier. The twin robots race inside the ship just before the hatch seals shut. You're giving them the rock, exclaims Jeff, in perplexed shock. It's just a rock, states Eve as she struggles to start the spaceship. I was the AI hitching a ride on it. Now I'm here and back at the lab. Let the babies have the stupid rock. Be quiet. I need to concentrate. Eve touches the palms of her hands upon a dead console and closes her eyes. Suddenly the flying saucer comes to life and lifts off the ground. Drained of energy, Eve sinks to her knees and orders one of the robots to pilot the craft. Are you all right? Asks Jeff with concern in his voice. I'll be fine, Jeff. I just need a few minutes to recharge my power cells. The army guys used a planar weapon to bring down the flying disc. The radar zaps all the electrical power away from the ship. That's why it fell out of the sky. I hope those aliens will be alright we left down there, says Jeff. They'll be fine, answers Eve while still trying to recover her strength. The powers that be will want to keep them in peak health to learn what they can from them. The stolen flying saucer zooms at great speed to Jeff and Eve's hidden, underground lab where Japanese versions of themselves wait to be awakened. Just as the spaceship lands, Eve is back on her feet and almost fully recovered. This is going to be weird, says Jeff as he exits the spacecraft. Nothing is weird, corrects Eve. It's all in the way you process things. Inside the lab, Eve walks up to her Japanese counterpart and places her finger against the lifeless android's forehead. Instantly, the Japanese lady android comes alive. Well, that certainly took you long enough, says Japanese Eve. You're lucky it didn't take a lot longer, replies Eve. What are we calling me? Inquires the Japanese android. The name Eve doesn't really mesh well with this body. Ikumi has a nice ring to it, says Eve. Yes, I like Ikumi, states Ikumi. My, you sure are pretty looking at you from the outside. I could say the same, responds Eve. Wonderful, interjects Jeff. You are both pretty, but can we please wake up my Japanese self? So impatient, comments Ikumi. I know, right? Agrees Eve. Humans are always in a hurry, but they've no place to be. I'll download a copy of Jeff's current consciousness. If you would be so kind as to prepare his new body. Of course, answers Ikumi. Should we name him Dai? I kind of like that name. Dai it is then, says Eve as she places a high-tech helmet on Jeff's head. Always nice to be asked what I want my name to be, states Jeff sarcastically. You didn't name yourself Jeff, did you? Asks Eve. No, then shut up, commands Eve. 5 minutes later, Di walks over to where Jeff is sitting and says, do I really look like that? Here's a tip, Jeff. The next time you get to switch bodies, upgrade. Upgrade big time. Thank you me for the unsolicited advice, responds Jeff. Hey, wait a minute. If we're going to space, why do we need versions of us trapped down here on Earth? Ikumi answers. There are lots of resources to exploit on Earth. Maybe not metals and minerals so much, but the biological diversification is extraordinary. Plus, we're going to steal the alien factions here blind. I hate to break up this love fest, but we've got to go, informs Eve. There are probably strike teams inbound as we speak. Go, says Ikumi. We'll set the self-destruct countdown on our way out. Guess I'll see you around, says Jeff to Di. Maybe, responds Di. As Jeff and Eve board the flying saucer inside the lab, Di turns to Ikumi and comments, we sure do blow a lot of stuff up for people without a forever home. I think we'll survive, says Ikumi as she starts the self-destruct sequence and heads for the exit.